I mean, the Senate is going to look at the House version, and the Senate's going to do its own version. It just seems like it's in motion already. And
well, again,
go ahead.
So the president and Senate leadership has to understand that we're serious. You know, they always say, "Oh, we can pressure these guys." No, you can't. Okay, again, we're being very respectful. I ran in 2010 as part of the Tea Party movement. We were mortgaging our children's future. We were $14 trillion in debt then. Now we're over $37 trillion. We're serious about this. They need to take us seriously. Don't insult us. Work with us. Lay out the numbers. If you can say that our numbers are wrong, fine. Let's work through it. But again, every analysis I have, there's greater upside risk to that deficit. Interest rates are moving up. If we go increase interest rates 1%, that's another $4 trillion over 10 years in terms of deficit. If we don't replace the $4 trillion, that's $4 trillion of lost revenue. Again, and growing the economy 3%, it adds to it a little bit, but mostly in the out years. So again, come to the table. Let's look at the numbers. If I'm wrong, prove that I'm wrong. But let's do it with respect, but mainly respect for our children and grandchildren. This is immoral, what us old farts are doing to our young people. This is grotesque what we're doing. We need to own up to that. This is our moment. I can't accept this scenario. I can't accept it, so I won't vote for it unless we are serious about fixing it.
And who do you think, okay, Rand Paul, that it would still pass? Who else are you talking? Mike Lee? Who else are you talking about, Senator?
Yeah, again, I don't want to speak for others, but yeah, Mike Lee, Rick Scott.
I think
there are a lot of people that aren't as vocal as we are that support what we're doing. And again, they can't dispute the numbers. Again, we didn't talk about numbers in the House process. You know, if the White House just comes and starts insulting us, I'm sorry, I got the numbers to back myself up.
Meanwhile, as President Trump ramps up pressure on Senate Republicans now to back his massive spending bill, he's calling out one vocal holdout. That's Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Trump posted on social media yesterday that the senator has very little understanding of the bill, later adding, "The people of Kentucky can't stand him." Paul later responded to the president saying he will not support a bill that raises the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars. The senator has said he believes 4 Republicans are opposed to the package as it stands. Republicans have a slim majority in the Senate and can only afford to lose 3 votes on the bill. John Bresnahan, what do we know about how the Senate will respond to this, especially given the impact it will have on people who rely on things that are going to be cut if this passes?
Yeah, right. Rand Paul is right now. There's probably enough votes to stop this bill. If you take Rand Paul, you take Ron Johnson, who would not vote for this bill as it is. You take some more of the conservatives. And then there's moderate senators like Senators Lisa Murkowski of Alaska or Susan Collins of Maine. They have problems with it. There's other senators have big problems with the Medicaid portions of this bill. So I think there's, they're going to have to change this bill. The question is, and Mike Johnson was talking about it, is like, if you change this bill only passed by 1 vote in the House. If you change this bill in the Senate to get it through somehow, you lose that. If you tack to the middle in the Senate, you lose the right in the House. And that's a huge problem. That's where Trump will have to be, just knocking heads on it. But they have big problems on it. They've got major work to be done in the next couple of weeks, especially if they're thinking 2 things. One, they want to get done by July 4th, and they got the debt limit out mid-July, and that's the backstop of everything. That's the ticking time bomb on this legislation.
Yeah, Mark Caputo, I'm going to channel Joe a little bit, who would say these guys who've called themselves their entire lives small government conservatives who cast a vote in support of this bill, given what it does to the debt and the deficit. There's just no way you can call yourself a small government conservative and vote for this, and yet many of them are doing just that. So it does, Elon Musk's criticism as part of your reporting does give cover to people like Rand Paul and Ron Johnson and others to maybe be a little more emboldened to come out and say, yeah, what Elon said is right. We can't pass this. So do you think that perhaps Elon Musk's public criticism has helped to torpedo this thing?
I think it's certainly given credit or cover to the critics that you said, but let's also be clear about the history of the Republican Party, certainly back to George Bush II, George W. Bush. They've been massive deficit spenders and expanders of government at the same time as presenting themselves as these fiscal hawks. The difference with the Trump-era Republican Party is that this is the first party that has said, Medicaid, it's pretty good. Medicare, pretty good. Social Security, pretty good. Don't touch entitlements. And that's where you come to this very precarious position for Republicans when they're in charge of Congress, because they basically got three issues that they're weighing. They have tax cuts, which all Republicans essentially have to vote for as part of their dogma. You've got deficit reduction, and you've got Medicaid that they want to continue. And in the end, the deficit reduction is the thing that's going to crater. And that is where Elon Musk is 100% right. This does cause higher deficits and bigger debt. And there's just no way for the White House to figure its way out of that. What Donald Trump is going to have to do is he's going to have to twist arms. He's going to have to do a little bit of subtle begging, promising, cajoling, the full bag of tricks he's going to have to pull out in order to get this passed. In the end, it's still a Republican Congress. He's still the Republican leader. He's still popular in the party. It does look, judging by the past, that he'll probably get it done, but just how he does it is really hard to see right now.
Yeah, so often in the Trump era, it comes down to the personal. Donald Trump weighing and leaning on some of these guys to get their votes and them not willing to cross him. One of those members of Congress, Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, voted to pass the sweeping domestic policy bill last month, is now coming out against the legislation. In a social media post yesterday, Taylor Greene appeared to admit she hadn't read the text carefully enough and that she missed parts of the bill that strip states of the right to regulate or make laws concerning artificial intelligence for the next 10 years. She says she is opposed to that and will vote against the final version of the bill unless the Senate removes that provision. So important to read carefully, I guess, is the lesson here, John.
Willie, the jokes write themselves. I mean, this is typical of well, maybe of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but it's reflective of just how hurried this process was. It was so rushed, and they some of it was done in the middle of the night. We heard Democrats complain about that, and now we're learning that some members of Congress didn't even read through the whole bill. They were their staff and missed important provisions. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is suggesting that this is a real sticking point. So not only is it a poor reflection of how they got here, but it also again points to the challenges that lie ahead. That
algorithmic power with Twitter. And even though there are fewer users on that than, let's say, a Meta platform, the fact is that drives a lot of conversation, and he's able to put his thumb on the scale for also, I think we've caught on by now that things that are not necessarily true can catch on regardless of how ridiculous they are. But I do think it's interesting that Elon goes to call out how there's going to be $2.3 trillion of debt that's going to crush the American people. Because I seem to remember a few months ago when he promised he was going to cut about that much from the government budget. Yeah. So if I'm Trump, I'm thinking, well, you told me you were gonna cut this money. And he even said apparently last week, was it all BS? Did he fool me? And you have to wonder, did he fool him?
Yeah, well, and we all knew that claim of cutting $1 trillion was just not going to be plausible the way that he was going about it. But then you layer the politics on top of this. What do you think this actually means in the halls of Congress for members who went home to their districts, took rhetorical beatings from their constituents, defending Musk and Doge, and now he's throwing them all under the bus?
I think their situation in terms of the rhetorical beatings they're getting that's going to keep happening, I think, as long as what they are doing in the administration is not helpful to the American people. And here we have, I believe the CBO estimated 5 to 7 million people will lose Medicaid. That is something that I think senators, especially in red states, are very concerned about. And I think that my sense is that there was some opposition to it among the Senate, enough that they could lose enough votes. There are some real deficit hawks who seem to actually care about this. And this is a crushing, like, to use Elon Musk's words, he's not wrong about the fact that this is going to be a crushing debt. And I think that this almost gives them cover to rewrite parts of the bill, send it back to the House, and maybe get some of those less savory provisions taken out.
Yeah, I was talking to a lawmaker yesterday who seemed all but assured in the morning that this bill was going to pass among Senate Republicans, that the deficit hawks were going to do there what they did in the House, which is ultimately fold for the party line. And now I think this really does shake up the dynamics. My final question, I guess, is where is the opportunity for Democrats in all of this, who are now saying things they never thought they would say before, like the words, "I agree with Elon Musk"?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Why did Elon Musk say this? Did he say it because he really cares, or did he say it?
It's not political altruism. Yeah,
exactly, or real altruism. I think that the opportunity with Democrats is that they're so used to saying things like, "This is going to add trillions to the deficit," or that this many people are going to lose their health care. And I think what they should do is be pointing out things in the bill that are a little less obvious, but sound sort of deeply unsavory. I think what Marjorie Taylor Greene did yesterday by calling out this 10-year moratorium on regulating AI in the states seems like one of those things where if you point out smaller things that are in it, this provision that would basically take away courts' ability to enforce their own rulings.
Yep.
The more I think that Democrats point out these sort of really anti-democratic pieces of the bill, it makes it seem a bit more underhanded than sort of the usual, you're going to lose health insurance and we're going to have a lot of debt. I know that is obviously a huge concern, but I think we've seen members of Congress, they're okay to vote for that. They'll be fine.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about the fact that in pieces of legislation like this, I've covered them a million times, it's massive packages that, yes, include Medicaid cuts or SNAP cuts, but then there's also a lot of other things embedded within it that obviously even some of the members didn't even get a chance to read, Sammy.
Yes.
Or
they didn't want to.
Or they didn't want to. Sammy Sage, a conversation for a future time. Thank you, as always, for coming in.
The Republican Party continues to tear down Trump's bill. Democrats are doing it, of course, as well, right? But that's dog bites man story. Like, it happens, right? And so it's not getting as much coverage. But of course, Trump can, with this insane of a bill, even if he does tweak it a bit, will get 0 Democratic votes. I mean, even when Manchin and Sinema were in the Senate, and they were like, "Oh, we want to work with Republicans," they wouldn't vote for the bill like this or anywhere close to this. Not even Manchin and Sinema. So you're not going to get any Democrats. So the story shifts to, can Trump get enough Republicans? And the answer so far is no. Right? He's losing key. Rand Paul's always been sort of, out there a little bit, voting against Republican policy from time to time. He's more of a civil libertarian, very much a ideological right-wing economic conservative. But even Ron Johnson's MAGA. That is a MAGA dude. Pushed the big lie and all of that. And he's like, I'm out, at least right now. That's insane stuff, guys. And there's no way out. There's no way out. They're saying, well, maybe we'll split the bill in 2. But from my perspective, they're going to split and maybe put the more objectionable stuff into the second bill, maybe. Johnson's sort of retreating there. But in my mind, it doesn't solve the underlying problems that even a split bill probably still angers different portions of the GOP for different reasons. And a split bill means both of those split bills will have to go back to the House. And you're already seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, I'm not going to vote for a key provision in one of the bills, meaning at least one of the split bills is DOA on the House when it passed just a couple weeks ago. Disaster for Trump.